Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand, Ross, where the rock never stops. Today, I want to do a video about why I think the Brooklyn Nets are playing a dangerous game in this Kyrie Irving contract renegotiation. Or not renegotiation, but negotiation. If you like the video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notification. You know the drill, helps out with those algorithms. And I definitely appreciate all the support and love. The reason why the Brooklyn Nets are playing a dangerous game is because they don't have options. Let me be clear. The Brooklyn Nets are all in. They brought in Kevin Durant. They brought in Kyrie Irving. They brought in Steve Nash. They retooled, reconfigured, reconstructed the hell out of this roster. They are all in for a championship. They have no other place to go. You see, it's one thing to be in a contract negotiation where you have chips, right? Where you have a hand that you can play, right? Where you have options, you have a fallback, you got a plan B that's still really good. Maybe it's a plan A2 instead of the plan A1, and you can go back and forth and be like, you know what? We can do this, we can do that. But the reality is Brooklyn doesn't have that. And it's on several fronts that this is a dangerous game. One, because Kevin Durant is Kyrie Irving's best friend. He's his best friend. Both of them are in their prime. Both of them signed up to go there together. Kyrie Irving is the reason why Kevin Durant is even there in the first place. And it wasn't like Kyrie didn't play spectacularly when he did play this past season. Now, a lot of people want to point to the pandemic as some sort of reason why Kyrie Irving is less than valuable or less than worthy of what he's asking for. But let's be clear on a couple things. One, it was a worldwide pandemic that affected everybody. Everybody had to deal with this pandemic, and they had to make different decisions, right? If they wanted to take a vaccination, which vaccination they wanted to take, what their religious or personal beliefs were. Everybody was dealing with that. Now, the city of Brooklyn happened to have its own special criteria that even went beyond most of the NBA, outside of excluding maybe the Toronto Raptors, right, in the country of Canada. And so it's to say that it was a complex situation that absolutely cannot be thrown all on Kyrie Irving because he was not willing to coalesce to what maybe you or someone else wanted him to do in terms of his body, his autonomy, and his choice, a decision. You see, one thing that we gotta really understand is that these are human beings. They're not our robots. They're not our toys. They're not my daughter's Legos where she can move a leg and an arm where they want it to and position it on a building structure and make it do exactly what she wants it to do every single time, right? That's not how this works. As much as you can't control injuries, as much as you can't control a pandemic, you can't control people. And so this idea that people are supposed to do what we want them to do, or somehow they become vilified, or they don't have as much value to us, is foolish. At the same time, the Brooklyn Nets being bounced out of the first round of the playoffs also wasn't something to be dropped on Kyrie Irving's lap. The reality is, you know what? It probably had more to do with, one, Kevin Durant getting injured. And it's not a fault. It's just the reality of the situation. He got injured. Okay, they fell in the standings. Having Kyrie throughout the season might have helped. But it was one of those things where you can't always script it how you want to, which goes back to the previous point. And then the team that they actually lost to, which was a hard-fought loss, I believe, in that series, it was the least level of margin in terms of points of any losing team in a playoff series, I believe in NBA history. I want to say it was like an accumulation of maybe 14 or 20 points total of the accumulated amount that they were losing by from each game, right? They were barely losing these games. It wasn't like they were getting smashed, blown out like they didn't belong there, right? Secondly, they lost to a team that had probably the best defense in the NBA at that time. That was rolling, that was hot. They ran into a freight train and they weren't able to overcome it. Not only that, but it's the same team that made it all the way to the finals. That means that this was a team that was definitely better than Philly, better than Miami, clearly, right? And just so happened to also be better than Brooklyn. Now, I'm not going to necessarily say that they were better than Milwaukee because a lot of that had to do with the injury to Chris Middleton. But it's to say that losing to a team that got all the way to the NBA Finals and lost in 6 games to the championship is nothing to, drop your head about and act like there was some great failure. Now, I know a lot of us kind of hear these monikers of, the second place is just the first loser, championship or nothing. Kyle Lowry had his soundbite that, the season was a failure because they hadn't won a championship, yada, 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 yada. The reality is most teams who are in a position to win a championship every single year are not going to win that championship. Only one team is. And it takes a whole lot of luck, like Milwaukee realized when Middleton went down, right? Staying healthy all the way through, getting to the promised land is actually 90% of the battle, all right? And the Brooklyn Nets didn't have the third piece of their triumvirate, who they are built to actually operate best in when they have these 3 pieces and these supplementary pieces around them. They did not have Ben Simmons. And as much as we would have all loved to have been like, hey, just push through your back injury and all that, you can't blame him either. He knows his body. We don't. We don't walk around in pain. We don't get up out of the bed and feel tightness pull on our back. We don't bend over and lean and try to pick up a kid or do a chore and feel a sharp, jagged pain shoot up through our muscles or body, right? That's his body. And he chose what he chose, and you got to respect that. All that's to say is that all the things that the media is trying to act like the Brooklyn Nets have as chips or options in order to try to barter and negotiate with Kyrie Irving, it's just not true. It's not true. Now, on the other side of that, it's the benefits of having a Kyrie Irving. And let me just go through this. And I've done it before, but let me just do it again. Kyrie Irving is box office. What that means is he is one of a handful of players that people who know nothing about the game of basketball will turn on a TV, will go to a sports bar, will buy a jersey, will buy a ticket to a game simply because he is performing. Not just playing, he is performing. He is a work of art out there. His dribbling exploits, his finishing around the basket, his shot making, his shooting, the things he does is so attractive that it increases the value of your franchise simply because he's there. Not because you're winning, not because you got a championship, not even because he got to the All-Star. It means that because he's there on your team, your franchise has more value. That means your television contracts, right? That means your ticket sales. That means your ability to charge for advertisement within your stadium, right? Things that account for tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Remember, when LeBron James left Cleveland, that franchise diminished in value, I believe, almost over, I think it was either 300 or 400 million dollars. I sound like Austin Powers. $1 million. All right? That's how much value a box office player has on top of winning, right? And let's be clear. Kyrie Irving at this point is known for winning. Now, you could debate if he has all the floor generalship and the ability to lead a team and all that. Hey, you know what? He's gotten to the playoffs. He's been in the playoffs nonstop, all right? And we've seen him perform at the highest level in the NBA Finals, making one of the most spectacular shots we've ever seen in the NBA Finals, leading his team to a victory, right? He's certified. So what are you really arguing about here, right? What are your options? Are you going to trade him? For who? Who's ready to win the championship right now? Who's going to click with Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons and help lead this Brooklyn Nets team to a championship? Who? You want to trade him to the Lakers? You know how fast the Los Angeles Lakers would make that trade for Russell Westbrook? Yo, they wouldn't even finish the sentence. They were like, would you like, yes, it's already signed. It's actually in your inbox. If you can just go ahead and just, sign that and send it back, we will send him over immediately, right? Probably with a draft pick and a trade kicker, right? Like, there are few players out there who can do what he does on and off the court and are ready to do what they're asking him to do, right? Like, you really have to understand a player's value, not just in terms of standing alone by himself, but also the value that they have specific to this team. This is Kevin Durant's best friend. Yo, most NBA players, especially at the top who have been around, understand the game. These NBA owners are barely splitting basketball related income. It has nothing to do with the tertiary income that comes from just owning an NBA franchise. Tax benefits, write-offs, your investments in your supplementary businesses that you're able to start or maintain that work in conjunction with owning a stadium and owning the property and the land rights of where your stadium is, because most of these owners own the land that the stadium is on, and so you actually are in the real estate game now, so you can actually borrow against that and invest against that as well. Like, there's so much that comes with it. These players know this. They know that you're not hurting for money. So even as much as a Stephen A. Smith pundit might act like, and even now Kendrick Perkins, which was sad to see this morning, being like, the owners are tired of Kyrie Irving. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? If you look at probably total revenue that they get from being owners, they're probably giving players anywhere between 25 to 32%. You're asking, like, where do you get those numbers from? You have to understand how these different businesses work in conjunction with one another, right? You don't just build a stadium. You give out a contract to somebody to lay concrete, to put in a foundation, right? Well, what happens when most of that money to build a stadium is being supplemented or subsidized by the city, and you just happen to also own the different companies who are going to come in and help build it, right? So you're not only just making money after it's all built, you're actually making money even in the process. We're talking about tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a multi-billion-dollar stadium, right? And that's only one aspect of making money just from being an owner, right? That has nothing to do with quote-unquote basketball-related income yet. Anytime anyone tries to pretend like owners are in this great debt and that they're struggling and suffering, right? What you're really saying is you have no idea of the business side of things. You have no idea how much money they're actually making. You have to remember when Michelle Roberts, who was the president of the Players Association, right, when she first came on and ran the books for these owners who were like crying, the Minnesota Timberwolves and Milwaukee Bucks at the time, and all these franchises that were struggling for so many years, Sacramento Kings, talking about, oh, we're losing money. She was like, oh, bet. And you know what she did? Because she's an actual lawyer, not like the NFL Players Association, which is one of the weakest associations of all professional sports, which is sad. It's sad just for my people off GP, right? We just came out of Juneteenth weekend, right? Celebrating our Black history. And we got to look at the NFL's Player Association as one of the weakest negotiating players associations we've ever seen. And it's sad to see because they actually spend more time in college than even the NBA, right? They can't come out after 1 year. They come out after 3, maybe 2, if some sort of fluke happens, right? And yet they don't even have the wherewithal to bring in actual lawyers to be like, yo, let me see all your real books. Because you're making so much money off of us. The NFL makes way more money than the NBA does. And yet NFL players get paid far less with no guarantees, right? It's crazy to see that. But yeah, you have Michelle Roberts come in, she ran the books and she's like, yo, y'all making so much money. Y'all have been hiding all this basketball, quote unquote, basketball related income. She also saw how much they're making outside of basketball, but just basketball related income. She said, you guys are hiding so much that what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to decide how we want to adjust this. How do we want to do it? Remember, the negotiation was, do we give all the money all at once back to the players? Or do we put this on a scale? Do we like slide this out over time? And they decided over time. And so when you saw the salary cap jump, I want to say like tens of millions of dollars for each team every single year, right? What you have to understand is 3-4 years down the road, they're still making up for how much the owners were already making back then and had been making. So in other words, when you see a Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving looking at owners across the table, they're like, you're making so much money for you to try to weasel your way out of, or heckle, or try to find some sideways route to swindle me out of what I know that I'm worth. That tells me not only can I not trust you, but I don't even know if I want to be here. Look at DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton has been anchoring their defense for the past few years, going to the NBA Finals, going to Western Conference semifinals, and he's still only getting better. And their owner, who is struggling with a whole bunch of cases around racism, around sexual misconduct, sexism, misogyny within his organization for years, for decades, he's been dealing with this, people coming out the woodworks, and he's going to come over here and be like, oh, you know what? I don't know if I want to pay this dude. Bruh, we know how much you're making. We know how much you're making. Right? That's like somebody who's making, $4,000 or $5,000 a week, not want to pay somebody that he owes $100. It's like, for real? For real? You done made 5, 10 this week and you can't pay me? You can't pay me? Shoot, there's a verse in the Bible that says, if you owe somebody a debt, you pay them when it is due. You do not withhold money from them. All right? It's like a principle. It's a principle, right? And so seeing this whole negotiation dynamic between Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets, one, I think it's blown out of proportion by the media. I'll give it that. But second, it's a dangerous game. Because if Kyrie Irving does walk, you know who's also going with him? Kevin Durant. Why would he want to stay someplace that does his best friend dirty? His partner dirty? You don't think that's going to rub him the wrong way too? You don't think Kevin Durant knows the books too, to see that you're trying to swindle his man out of his money? Right? You don't think the other players on this team see that as well when it's time for their contract negotiations? Right? Ben Simmons. You have to understand, especially with Ben Simmons, it's like, yo, one, he's used to exercising his autonomy at this point. He's already gone through the whole rigmarole of being dragged through the media. Okay, he's done it. And at the end of this contract, he will be an unrestricted free agent, despite the Brooklyn Nets having bird rights to him and can offer him a bigger deal. He's like, look, if I see you doing Kyrie Irving, who was having his back when everybody was clamoring for him to play and saying that he just didn't want to play, and he sees you doing that too, imagine you lose 3 superstars. And I mean superstar, or 2 superstars and a star who easily can become a superstar in Ben Simmons, right? You lose all 3 of these dudes because you wanted to, what? Heckle, go back and forth over what? $10 million? $10 million? When you making an extra 150 because he's there? Just being there before you've played even a game? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is a dangerous game. But I do think it'll get resolved. I don't think Brooklyn is going to send him anywhere. I don't think Kyrie's going to opt in. It would actually be a more dangerous sign if Kyrie opts in. If he opts in, that's one of those signals to say, like, you know what? Bet. I got you. Okay, that's what you want to do? Bet. I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to tear it up next year. And I'm going to bounce. And I'm going to bounce. That's what it would say to me. Or he might be saying, or I'm going to take you for every last dollar I can get after that. But then you'll owe him even more. You see, doing right by players is really important. And the best of franchises, one, they keep all of that behind closed doors. That shit don't get leaked. But then on top of that, even if they're trying to play hardball, they're going to do it in a way where they make sure that you know, hey, even though we're trying to do this business negotiation and we're looking out for our best interest, not necessarily yours, because it's a contract negotiation, and we're each trying to, get the best deal, We still want you to know we 150% want you back. And you make that adamantly clear. You make that overwhelmingly clear that we're just working this out. This has nothing to do with how we feel about you on this team. And so, Brooklyn, get it together. Get it together. Because you know what? What the hell have y'all won? Y'all haven't been back to the finals since the Hall of Fame Jason Kidd was there. And he dragged y'all there to the finals back-to-back years. Now you have a chance to get back, and this is how you're going to play it? Nah, you're slipping. Get your shit together. Re-sign Kyrie. For as long as Kevin Durant's going to be there. You are all in. And at this point, we all understand. Even if it becomes a bad contract in 3-4 years from now, you can still move it. People have been trading bad contracts. John Wall got traded, right? Russell Westbrook got traded, right? Gordon Hayward's probably about to get traded when Charlotte packages its draft picks, right? All this shit is happening, right? So acting like you can't pay somebody because you're scared of how things are going to work out in the long haul, and you still know that these salary caps are going to keep going up, right? So even what may appear to be a bad contract now, 2-3 years from now, is going to be a great contract, or at least a more than manageable, movable contract if you need to. So this hardball thing that Brooklyn is doing right now, it could come back and bite them in the ass big time. And so right now, I think they're going to re-sign him. I think they're going to figure out, hey, let's not piss off KD before we try to make a championship run, because we need them focused. We need them committed, right? We need them to be able to overcome obstacles and make sure that they are gelling and have great continuity coming in the next season. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think the Brooklyn Nets are doing too much? You think they're about to make a huge mistake and let him walk? Do you think they're going to trade him? Do you think they're just not going to re-sign him and have him opt in? What do y'all think? Holla at me next time. We'll see y'all. Peace.